Hi everyone, welcome back to session 6, part 2. Today we'll be talking about stress management and how we can change our lives starting today. Please don't forget to press like and subscribe. Welcome back everybody. This is part 2 of stress management. I hope you had a good week so far and you didn't experience too much stress. So let's start with the physical as well as the emotional responses to stress. So emotional feelings related to stress can encompass feeling more anxious, feeling more tired, feeling more depressed, feeling more angry, feeling overly emotional if you find yourself wanting to cry for no apparent reason, not being able to cope with very simple situations that happen on a daily basis, feelings of being overwhelmed, feelings of hopelessness, feelings of not being able to cope. All of these emotions and feelings go hand in hand and are possible reactions to stress. Now, physiological symptoms of stress are different. For example, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, feeling a choking sensation right here in your throat, even though there is no just cause, it's just a sensation. Sweating, numbness or tingling sensation in your hands or in your feet, feeling greater headaches or lightheadedness or vertigo. There are nearly 100 different symptoms, physiological symptoms that are associated with stress and anxiety that go hand in hand together. So this session is going to be focusing on being aware of your body and how you can change your level of stress on a daily basis. Now, this session, although we're talking about people with chronic pain, it is more of a general encompassing kind of framework for stress, because what I'm going to be mentioning can relate to everyone and can help everyone, not just exclusively people with chronic pain. So it's very important on a regular basis when you're feeling stressed to be able to kind of scan your body, a body scan, being cognizant of what your triggers are to stress. Now, naturally, everyone has a different threshold for stress, as I explained before, depending on their life circumstances, depending on their personality, genetics, etc. It takes maybe a lot more for someone else to not be able to cope, whereas someone else might be more resilient. So everyone has a different threshold. Now, keeping that in mind, when we are faced with an actual stressful situation, now sometimes when you're in a situation that's stressful, you have no choice but to perform, to do what is required of you, because there's no other way. So while you're doing it, the stress level is high. The hormone level for stress, which is cortisol, is also high. So because you're kind of on a go, you are not able to stop and scan your body or become aware of the fact that you're actually stressed. So while you're going through all this, everything's fine. You think that you're coping well, you're doing it, it's all getting done, whatever the situation happens to be. Now, it's not unusual for stress symptoms to manifest a few weeks later, or even in some cases a month later, once the situation has already resolved. Now, the body does not necessarily correspond to stress in the moment or the next day. Now, quite often, symptoms such as issues such as anxiety or depression manifest later. And also many other health issues, for example, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune diseases such as hyper or hypothyroidism can also be caused by and exacerbated by stress. So that's one symptom. That's one reason that they can be induced by stress. Not necessarily exclusive to stress, but definitely can be caused by it as well. So like I said before, I think I've mentioned that whatever health issue you have, chronic pain included, stress always exacerbates that physical situation, whatever that ailment may be. So again, if you have chronic pain, you're stressed out, you have more pain. Again, people who have chronic pain, again, different levels of stress. So compounding stress, exacerbation of pain. So Now, let's say you've had a stressful event, you've dealt with it. 3 weeks later, you're having different sensations in your body. Now you're feeling stressed out. Now you've reached your threshold, and all of a sudden you crash, or you're triggered by something else that causes you to have that emotional and physiological reaction to stress. That's why it's important, in order to prevent that from happening, is to become more aware or cognizant of what your triggers actually are. So the first step to stress management is self-awareness. Self-awareness essentially means being insightful, being cognizant, and being reflective in terms of what is going on in your body. Again, like I mentioned, the emotional reactions to stress, feeling overly emotional, feeling angry, feeling frustrated, feeling hopeless, feeling that you can't go on or you can't cope. These are all emotional feelings and or thoughts that you're having. Physiological symptoms, again, are heart palpitations, headaches, anxiety, increased sweating, chest pain or tightness as if you feel there's an elephant on your chest, choking sensations, heart palpitations. These are all physiological symptoms that people can experience with respect to stress. The second way of stress management technique is time management, essentially. Now, it's difficult at times to create, a schedule that is organized or that works well, but actually it's very, very important to be able to manage your time more effectively in a manner that corresponds to different life events that you have. Now, people with chronic pain, I assume, I hope not incorrectly, the risk of sounding presumptuous, that they are already used to having to organize their life around their pain. So it all depends on what they feel like in that day or the next day. So being able to organize your time or your schedule in a way that permits you from not becoming stressed out. So obviously, if you overextend yourself, if you have the tendency to not delegate, if you have the tendency to overload yourself because you think you can handle everything all at once, you're going to become more stressed. So it's important to be able to focus on what you're trying to accomplish on any given day, and only do the things that you think you can do without feeling overly frustrated or overly anxious. Because often what happens is it becomes a self-defeating process where you set yourself up with all these goals that you want to accomplish, but because they're a little bit more than you can take on that day, your expectations are high, but what you're able to do is disproportionate in terms of how you feel. So then you become stressed out. So basically, I know it sounds easier said than done, but try to manage your time in a way that's more effective and less conducive to stress. So if there are things that don't need to be done right away, don't do them. So prioritizing what is most important is a form of organization. Maybe writing things down in the morning or even at night before you go to bed. I'm sure most people are constantly on their iPhones, myself included, which is really bad for sleep, which we'll be talking about in future sessions. Actually making a list of what it is you want to accomplish the next day, maybe prioritizing in order of importance, chronologically, whatever way works for you, makes sense to you, whatever your day is going to be like. Next, we have relaxation. Now, if you have kids, I don't know if it's possible to relax, especially with the current situation, the kids being home from school, which is very, very difficult for parents. However, finding ways to relax is extremely important, because if you don't find ways to relax, your body is going to crash. So those physiological symptoms of shortness of breath, your palpitations, possible nausea, or headaches are not going to get better. They're going to be exacerbated because you have not been able to lower the hormone levels or the stress hormone of cortisol. So you're constantly on a high. So when you're on a high, you're unable to relax. But first you need to be aware that that's where you're at. Because if you're unaware and uninsightful in terms of where your stress levels are, then how can you bring it down? So again, going back to the body scan of how you feel, what you're thinking, and what your symptoms are. So relaxation means different things to different people. Whether you like to read a book, whether you like to talk on the phone to someone, whether you want to just lie down and meditate or practice mindfulness, being aware of your surroundings, going for a walk, organizing something. Sometimes there are some people that find cleaning to be relaxing. As odd as it may sound, it depends on the person, to each his own. So whatever is relaxing for one person may not be for another person. In order for an activity to be relaxing, it must not include the other things in your life that were causing you that stress. So if you're trying to relax while you're accomplishing a task, it's kind of counterproductive. So set that time every day, maybe a few times throughout the day. It doesn't have to be a full hour of relaxation. If you have a lot to do, maybe 15, 20 minutes of taking a time out, maybe taking a short nap. I don't encourage long or prolonged napping. It actually impedes on your ability to be more successful throughout the day, and your energy level can decline if it's excessive. And people who are prone to depression can find themselves feeling more depressed when they wake up. So excessive sleep is also not a good idea, but a possible cat nap here and there, if it helps you, it may be something to think about. Also, snacking, in terms of, sometimes when you're stressed out, you may not necessarily be eating. Maybe having a nutritious snack, possibly, yogurt, some fruit, nuts, whatever it may be. Not a full meal, but something small. Now, on the other hand, if you're eating too much, that could be causing other problems later on in the future, which we'll be discussing in future sessions. Next, we have the most important, absolutely the most important fundamental stress management technique is exercise. And the reason why I keep emphasizing the importance, the indispensable nature of exercise is that for people who have chronic pain, for people who have depression and anxiety, for people who are on anti-anxiety medications and or antidepressants, the same endorphins and hormones that are released through these medications, the serotonin and dopamine, are also released through exercise, so to speak, the happy hormones. So when you take these medications, these hormones are gradually released into your bloodstream in order to elevate and alter your mood so that it becomes a mood stabilizer. By the same token, when you're exercising, you are bringing your cortisol levels down. You are releasing that tension, you are releasing that frustration, that excessive energy through exercise. So the hormones are also being released. The serotonin and dopamine hormones are released through exercise. That is why people who are taking anti-anxiety medication and antidepressants should be doing so in conjunction with regular exercise. Now, when I say regular exercise, I don't mean walking very slowly around your house. That does not constitute as exercise. We're talking about some form of exercise that brings your heart rate up, at least for 5-10 minutes, or however way you can stand it, or however your doctor has advised you if there is a pre-existing issue that needs to be taken into account. Okay, so I'm not saying here, go run a marathon. Rosa didn't say go run a marathon. I said choose an activity that brings your heart rate up for a short amount of time. That's what exercise is, whether it's bike riding, whether it's running on the treadmill, whether it's for knee pain, probably elliptical is better than treadmill. However, the point is there needs to be exercise in your regular routine. Not exercise for, I'm going to exercise for 3 days to lose 25 pounds. No, but I'm going to exercise on a regular basis, not only to decrease stress, but also to alleviate and prevent symptoms of anxiety and depression. I cannot emphasize this enough. I am sure there are 24 hours in the day, and we are pretty good at wasting a lot of time. By we, I should say some people, not all people. However, people who are not regularly exercising are really good at finding excuses and justifications for not doing so. However, if you can sit on your phone on the couch for an hour or half an hour, you can do that on the elliptical and be actually getting your exercise in conjunction with whatever it is you're looking at. So exercise needs to be incorporated. Not only is it important for weight loss, for weight management, for mood stabilizing, and for preventing stress. Really, there's nothing that exercise does not benefit. Again, being mindful if you have a physical issue, being mindful of type of exercise that you're doing so that you're not going further back and hurting yourself. which means you should be consulting with your healthcare provider, your physician, in order to determine what exercise suits you best and is most appropriate. Next, we have sharing. Now, essentially, sharing refers to talking about your stress. So, venting, so to speak. Again, it's important to have a support system, people that you can talk to about what's going on. I often find that people who are in the same situation, same life circumstances, whether they have kids the same age, they have the same stresses, it can be very validating to speak to someone who also kind of gets what you're going through. Because sometimes being empathetic or imagining yourself, or someone to imagine how you feel, if they're not in your situation, it's very difficult. No matter how much they sit and imagine, they can never fully grasp what it is that you're going through. So when you're sharing with someone who is going through the same situation, it can be very uplifting because you're not only venting, but you feel validated, you feel supported, you feel, okay, this person gets it. It's very affirming. Now, the only disclaimer that I like to add to sharing is that sometimes when we're on a very negative kind of downturn and we're sharing a lot of negative emotions, please be mindful that that can become kind of fixed. So it's important to kind of be able to draw out more positive aspects in life so you don't get stuck on the negative. So while it's important to share, be conscious and mindful of how much of the time you're spending on sharing negative thoughts and negative emotions. So yes, we're not going to exclude emotions. They're important, they're there, but we're not going to fixate on those negative emotions for a prolonged period of time. Also, choose your support sharing group wisely. Not everyone has the capacity to hear what's going on with you. Perhaps the people you live with, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever, may not always be the best person to share with. They might already, feel like they have reached their threshold with everything. They might not be able to give you the validation that you may necessarily need in that moment. So when you get it from someone else, whether it's your friend or whoever, a different family member, when you come back, you'll find yourself hopefully more recharged and able to deal with life. Last, we have self-talk. Essentially, self-talk is reflection, insight into yourself. Again, not dwelling on those negative statements of I can't cope, I'm in pain, I'm frustrated, I'm defeated, I'm resigned, I can't get anywhere, my pain is controlling me, my stress is killing me. All these thoughts that you have, while you entertain them in the moment, because the more you try to avoid these thoughts and run away from them, the more you try to ignore them or avoid them, the more they come back. So mindfulness refers to the idea of entertain these negative thoughts, but also be able to extract yourself from them as well. So I hope that this was helpful. Please don't forget to press like and subscribe and add any comments that you wish. Thank you.